All right, we are live. We are live. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for the August edition from Stories to the Path, third episode with our dear friend Jeoffrey Hutcherson. I'm really excited that you guys all made the time to join us tonight, and I'm particularly grateful to Jeoffrey, not just for making the time to share with us tonight, but for the time he invested in preparing for this call to get ready for this show. It usually means spending a couple of hours on the phone with me and taking some time to really get prepped for this. So I'm extremely grateful to him in his busy schedule for his time. I'm really excited about this show in general and what's becoming of it after 3 episodes, and I like where it's going, but I'm particularly grateful to the 3 people who helped me get started here. One is with us right now, Tom DeWolf. Another you all know very well, Rebecca Sagoda, and then tonight our friend Jeoffrey Hot Chocolate. So in a minute, I'll tell you a little bit more about how I got started on creating this program. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about the format for tonight's call. So this is designed to be a 60-minute live interview and really just a conversation with the guest. During that time, it'll mostly be just Jeoffrey and I talking. And at the end, we'll save time for questions and answers or comments or personal shares. Either way, we have a hard ending point at 8:15. The first couple calls have gone about 65, 70 minutes, but I like to have a hard ending so everybody knows that they can stay for the whole call without having to go, oh my God, how long is this going to go? Do I have to leave in the middle of it? Which is never a comfortable feeling. So a little bit of the backstory on how this whole idea for Stories from the Path came to be. In our first 2 episodes, I talked a little bit about how I got involved with Infinite Possibilities. And tonight I want to talk a little bit more about how the light bulb went on to start this show and some of the other things that I've been doing on the side. Over the last 2 years, I've explored a lot of different paths that I never thought I would explore in this lifetime, but most of those paths have been direct tributaries from the river of infinite possibilities. At the San Antonio conference in January of this year, I had a number of assignments as one of the team members, and the 2 that I was most excited about were introducing Regina for her Yellow Brick Road Dreams speech to the whole group. And then my second most exciting assignment was being assigned to be Mike Dooley's room ambassador for the Returning Trainers Breakout. And Mike's session this time in San Antonio was designed to be a question and answer for trainers, just to pick his brain, a conversation with Mike, if you will. But in order to keep some general sense of order and to prevent people from, asking really long questions or diverting Mike's attention, Regina asked everybody to submit questions in advance. And she got about 12 or 15 questions submitted through the Facebook page. And she had them all typed up on a sheet of paper there in San Antonio. So as you well know, it can be a little bit hard to corral Mike at moments in time during the conference. So we were about 2 hours out from Mike's breakout presentation, and Regina corralled Mike and said, okay, so we're getting ready for your breakout, and Jim's your room ambassador, so we just need to kind of know what your expectations are and what you want to see happen. And during that powwow, we talked a little bit about how it might go. My expectation is that Mike would say, well, just introduce me and I'll go from there. And I pretty much thought it was going to be, ladies and gentlemen, the universe, and then Mike would run the show. I got a little bit of a different direction than I expected in that situation. When Regina told Mike the questions were all pre-scripted, Mike had the sheet of paper in his hands, and he looked at her and he said, I don't want to sit there and read questions to myself. That'll just be weird. And you can all kind of picture Mike saying that because he's so great with his facial expressions. He turned to me and he said, what I want you to do, Jim, is I want you to sit on stage with me, and I want you to ask me the questions. You can go in any order you want. You can edit out anything that doesn't seem appropriate. You can add in any questions that you want to ask, and we'll just have sort of an on-stage live interview. So I went from thinking I was going to stand at the door and introduce Mike to literally sitting on stage with Mike for 75 minutes and doing a Larry King style live interview. And at the end of that, I thought, wow, this is really cool. And that kind of launched some confidence for me to start some men's circles that I've been dragging my feet on starting. And then it launched me on the idea of doing a larger online format interview talk show. In the past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to be involved in a lot of storytelling situations. We've led a bunch of storytelling shows, and we've worked with a number of different Toastmasters group in the art of storytelling. And most importantly, in addition to being able to tell a lot of my stories, I've been able to hear a lot of stories, probably somewhere in the range of 150 or 200 different storytelling presenters in the various shows that we've hosted and the forums we've been a part of. And when we tell and listen to other people's stories, we create a platform where we realize we are all the same. We all have desires, we all have journeys, we all have challenges, and we all have awakenings. And those awakenings lead us to our contentment and our new desires. Quite literally, we are our own hero's journey, in the words of Joseph Campbell. The journey we're embarking on tonight is the culmination of 2 years of preparation in my life, meeting the opportunity to share in this particular community. And so I'm really, really excited to officially welcome you to Stories from the Path, Episode 3, with our special guest, Jeoffrey Hutcherson. So a little bit about Jeoffrey's background before we get into the conversation. As most of you know, Jeoffrey is lovingly known as Hot Chocolate by his friends and fellow seekers. Jeoffrey is a very important voice of love and joy in this universe. And this universe is shifting and learning how to live in a place of peace. And it's the voices of joy and love like Jeoffrey's that really help lead the way. Jeoffrey's published 2 books entitled Transformative New Thoughts and Hot Chocolate Happiness. He's also in the process of completing his 3rd book, because all great heroes' journeys come in trilogies, don't they? Jeoffrey is a speaker, an artist of life coach. He is a massage therapist, a sound healer, and he has many simple, powerful tools to help you choose happiness and be as happy as deeply and as often as you want to. In our call tonight, Jeoffrey is going to talk about how losing his father at an early age first silenced him, but then released his true inner voice. He's going to talk about the many mentors he's been drawn to during his periods of growth. He's going to talk about how connection to source is an ever-present channel when we allow for it to be open. Jeoffrey will share some of his secrets to help us tweak our attitudes on those days when we feel especially challenged to feel happy. Most importantly, Jeoffrey's going to talk about what's going on in his life right now and how we all play a role in creating a universe where all lives matter. I expect there'll be plenty of laughs and maybe even a few tears, but I can promise you one thing. I can promise without a doubt you will feel alive just by being around Jeoffrey's infectious energy. So let's officially welcome with silent applause our dear friend Jeoffrey Hot Chocolate. Welcome to the call, Jeoffrey. So Jeoffrey, I want to start where you and I met, of course. So if I'm not mistaken, you and I met in the Matrix seminar in Milwaukee in November of 2014. Is that correct?
Yeah, that probably is. That's probably when you and I first met. And it was just one of those things where it was just like, bam. Oh, cool people. Want to get to know more of them. You know, it was just a really fun experience, and a lot happened from that one meeting.
Yeah, it sure has, hasn't it? We've worked together quite a bit. So obviously, Mike Dooley, like with all of us, was the connecting point for us. He was the light that we walked to. But you followed a lot of mentors in your lifetime, and many of them have guided you along the way. I know that Abraham and Esther Hicks are a huge part of your mentor team. Talk a little bit about how you first got involved in their teachings.
Oh, man. Oh, okay. I'm going to start crying already. Okay, so I was searching for answers just like everybody else. And I have friends that, talk to people that are spirit beings that crossed over. And so there's this one musician that came into my experience. And he had some shoulder issues and things like that. So I started to work with him. And he was in a transitional period of his wife just recently passing away. And he was getting rid of some of her things, but he was just having some difficulty about doing that. And so I'm working on him, and he and I just have this connection. It's fantastic. And he says, my wife has some things I should probably give them to you. I think you'll like them. And what it was, back in the day, we used to have these things called cassettes where we'd listen to music and things on them. And maybe, when we were downloading songs, we would use a cassette to record our songs from the radio. And so he gave me some of their most original work, 3 cassette decks full of all Esther Hicks. And they're, when they were still handwriting these things out. And he gave them to me, and I just drank it all in. I got into the books. I got into everything that I could get my hands on, and a nice cumulative effect on just having the Esther Hicks energy in my field when this first version of The Secret came out. I was like, I want to spend time with all of those teachers. And I finally met Esther Hicks and Jerry at a workshop in Chicago. And that story was fantastic in itself, and perhaps we can get into that deeper in one way. But I will tell you this. A very unique experience happened when I met Jerry and Esther. They acknowledged me 3 times that I hadn't counted on. Okay, so the first, let me just say, was my getting into the hot seat for the conversation with Esther and Abraham. Second, they actually called me out on the writing for the CD. You were able to buy the full CD of the workshop. And normally they say, she's concerned about her daughter, he's concerned about the economy. That's how they usually label things. But for my piece, they put, does little Jeff channel Big Jeff? You know, and that conversation I put out there for people to listen to. It's on my YouTube channel, and it was just amazing. Thirdly, it was when Transformative New Thoughts was coming out. And when they called me to the hot seat, I quickly ran and gave a copy to my book to Jerry. And I said, I've been listening to you guys for years. If there's anything you want to change, tell me. And I left. A few weeks later, I get a letter, Abraham Hicks Publications. And they gave me a letter of acknowledgement in doing what I was doing and saying that how Source was so proud that I was adding more to the conversation. And I have that thing. I carry it with me damn near everywhere just because it's nuts. I mean, because for me, that's baller right there. That is big baller. You can't get any more because they're the top in the field. And to have that type of, yep, you're just like us, feel from them was just phenomenal. And I'm just like beaming, you know. So having my feel and flow with Esther Hicks has just been amazing. And I did the same thing for as far as mailing her a copy of my second book. Do I expect him to think back? Probably not, because she's overwhelmed with stuff from people throughout the whole planet. So that's the wonderful Esther Hicks piece. But then that led to everybody else, man.
Yeah, you mentioned to me in our some of our conversations going back that you look to James Ray, in particular, the author of Harmonic Wealth, as a really important source mentor to you. Talk a little bit about your relationship and the vibration you get from James Ray.
Oh, that was amazing. Let's just say that was a very interesting experience, and my time with him was very brief in the sense that I was almost okay, he came to Milwaukee for an event like everybody else does. I was there, and he had some people that were here that were helping him set up this event too. So I got drawn in, and he was impressed by the way that I was protecting him, if you will, because I was just the on-site bodyguard of the evening. And he really enjoyed that. And I was able to handle the crowd well, and I did my job for the evening, so much to the point of where he said, would you consider doing this full time for me? Without even thinking, I'm like, shit, yeah, you know. And but then here was the thing that, you know, okay, if I'm going to do this for you, I was like, I'm going to do this right, you know. So I gave him a reference of one of my martial arts mentor, who is a private security trainer and things like that. But just a phenomenal individual, Guru Cliff, and it was just beautiful. And so then James flies me out to New Jersey to do the same thing for him there. Really, really, really fun and interesting time of playing with him and just interacting and just seeing how he does his thing, seeing as how it echoed with some of the other spiritual teachers I resonated with. And it was just a really, really fun time. Ultimately, he chose not to have me as a bodyguard at the time, but then things went kind of crazy after that, if you will. Things just kind of like happened. My time with James Ray was good. It was learning. It was fulfilling. It was one of those things that I saw with my awakening on the inside of coming back to me was, don't get wrapped up into the spiritual teacher. Lose yourself to the great teachings. Okay? So now, since we're talking about how to be happy and we're going on this path tonight, there are some things that are going to be opened up that are going to be exclusive to the individual, that's going to really, really get you into feeling you and to feeling the source within you. So really understand that first piece thereof. Don't lose yourself to the teacher. Wrap yourself up in the great teachings.
Speaking about great teachings, I know that you've devoted a lot of years and time on your own path to the martial arts and Eastern practices. Tell us a little bit about Hot Chocolate Sensei and a little bit about, your time on the path as a student and teacher in the martial arts.
Well, that was fun. That was me really just trying to focus my anger that I was carrying on at the time because of, my dad passing away and then life happening after that. In the martial arts, I was really fascinated by the artistry on how to express yourself and move your body, and using the weapons that were entitled with that. I got hooked into Bruce Lee, and then I've had some other teachers that, of different descent as well, for as far as African teachers, Native American teachers. Now, in that martial arts aspect, though, oh man, I was really, really, really good at hurting people with my hands. Great at it. But I felt inside that there was something more that I could do. One of my teachers that would kick my butt and fix me, I was like, how do you do this? He's fixing my shoulder, and he just hyperextended it during this one technique. He didn't necessarily mean to, but it just kind of happened. Okay. And so he fixed me, and I'm like, how did you do this? And he said, well, there's a healing side to the martial arts. Sold. Because at that point, I was still trying to figure out how to make my life work, how to allow Jeoffrey to work. I was still having some wounds inside of me that I kept reopening, and I wouldn't allow them to heal. And so he started to introduce me to the healing side to martial arts, and my life changed even more so. When I started to meet these different martial arts masters, for as far as, these guys can really destroy you in the body, and they saw what I could do, they started to treat me as a master as well. Now, that philosophy turned into a gathering of equals is what they were showing me. A gathering of equals is how they were talking to me. They chose to do that so that I would accept it. Because I was questioning at the time, because I thought it had to be that student-teacher dynamic. Mm-hmm. No, they were talking to me as if I was already a master and I just didn't know it. And when I realized that and opened up to them, like, oh, that's it. And then floodgates happened even more so, where I could understand, and I would go into me to be self-referral and to know that I could get my answers from within and not have to seek them from someone else.
Absolutely. Now, we can't talk about every one of your mentors in your lifetime in a 1-hour conversation, but I do want to touch on one more person. I want to talk a little bit about Keith Varna. I want you to talk to us a little bit about some of the really, really life-shifting experiences that you had by working with Keith Varna, and tell us a little about who he is.
Oh, Keith Varna. He is my one true bromance. He is a really cool friend of mine. We met years ago. He would come to Milwaukee and do these workshops over the weekend, and he got me into sound healing and just a whole slew of other things. But he is a really, really phenomenal friend. And so, on my path and on this journey of figuring out how to make my life work and just doing everything for as far as martial arts, trying to find my laugh again, it was just amazing. Keith, I'm in Pewaukee Lake. This is this beautiful home that we're in. There must have been 30 people in this living room. And we were having a really, really good time that weekend. And it was Saturday. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when you really pay attention to what's going on in life, there's a feeling that you feel, and you just know from that moment on your life is never going to be the same. I know, and I have words for that now. I didn't have that when this meeting with Keith Varna during this weekend was happening. Okay? And so 30 people are in this room, and he's going, okay, people, now we're all going to have fun. This is where we play the part of humor, the facilitator. So Source, Spirit, Love has been talking to you through every facet of your life. But now you're just going to pick up the phone and have a direct talk with Source. And I'm like, really? Okay, for real. Because some things for me, I was just having my inner skeptic going off going, yeah, that's got to really work. That doesn't make any sense. But okay, sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and try that, if you will. So going to have a direct conversation with Source. So I pick up the phone, pantomime to my ear, boom, download. The world went white. That's the best way that I can describe it. It went white. And then suddenly, dude, I'm thrown back to my high school. I'm thrown back to my high school stage. All of the wonderful performances I had on there, man. It was cool as hell. And then the curtain for my school stage looked just like the curtain from the Muppet Show. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. It did. It totally did. And so I see one spotlight and I go, hello, who's out there? And the voice says, go to the stage. Oh, okay. And so I step to the stage and I get into the light and I go, who's out there? The voice says, you know who's out here? Oh, okay. I got really pissed. So you're out there. Where were you when my father died? Where were you when they broke into my house? Where were you when I got jumped and the person that said he was my best friend just stood there and watched? Where were you when she broke my heart? Where were you when all of these other people that said they loved me, they said they wanted to be with me, fucking crushed my heart? Where were you then? You know what? Screw this shit. I'm getting ready to end this. I am so sick of this. How come only on this stage I could only find you? How come only on this stage I could get rid of my pain? How come on this stage I could know that it felt better to be somebody else other than me? How come I could only find that peace here? Where the fuck were you then? Tell me how to make my life work and don't be cryptic. The voice said, are you finished? Tell me! Jeoffrey, I never left you. I was by your side every step of the way. I was always trying to communicate to you through everything that you were interested in. You heard people laugh. You saw it. You saw them change. I was showing you how you could find your laugh again. When you were in theater, what was the first thing that you had to learn since you wanted to be a theater major? What was the first speech that you had to learn, Jeoffrey? I had to learn this William Shakespeare piece. Yeah. And so since you were learning William Shakespeare, what was that piece? Can you remember it? Recite it for me. Okay. Yeah, it was William Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Oh my God. Funny. Very funny. Funny. The auditorium just blew up with laughter, as I did. Okay, I made up that rule that I can only find peace on the stage. I made up that rule that I could only be my peaceful, happy self, my joyful self when I was on that stage. And since I was on that stage and since I made up that rule of a limitation, that was the key to break through it. Since I could only be comfortable and be me on the stage, well, guess what, Jeoffrey? All the world's a stage. Son of a bitch. Okay, really nice. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Source. And again, during that same time, during that same realization, that's when I got downloaded these 3 book ideas. Transformative New Thoughts, Hot Chocolate Happiness, and the third one's going to be titled, you guessed it, All the World's a Stage.
Well, thank you for sharing that wonderful story, which I never get tired of hearing. I want to take you back to a piece of that story you just shared. Your father died when you were 9. Tell us a little bit about that period in your life and, how you became silent for a while.
Well, my father passed away when I was 6. Oh. And one of the really cool things about that, too, was, my birthday is May 1st. My dad's birthday is May 1st. So we could share that together. And it was really, really amazing to just have whatever time that I could with him because we were so alike. At least that's what people tell me. Didn't have much of a reference point at that time. But when he passed away, I was 6, and I didn't know what I was going to do there because when he was gone, I lost who I was. People told me I had to grow up and be a man in the house now. Dude, I'm 6 years old. I want to be a kid. That's all I ever wanted to be. That was my most joyful life experience at that point. And you want to take that away from me and my father too? Wow. And so with, that piece of the story and watching my mother, my brother and sister go through what I would term now as a nervous breakdown, and we're all just trying to process it in our own way because we don't know what the next step is. There's too much going on inside, especially for me at 6. I made a really deep decision that I come to terms with a while ago. At 6 years old, I decided that I never wanted to have kids because I didn't want them to feel the way that I did when my dad died. Now, I'm okay with that. But dude, 6 years old, I made that choice. How many huge life decisions do we make at a young age and we just don't know? And it's because of something that we experienced. Something happens in our life and we put our arms up and we never put them down because we're so scared and we're on the defensive from that point on. So he died and I lost my voice. Sometime throughout that week, again, I heard laughter coming from the living room. I heard people in my house laughing again. And I was like, I wanted that. What was going on here? There's joy back in the house. And so I kind of come downstairs and I see that they're watching a television show. And I can't remember if it was Flip Wilson or someone doing some stand-up on there, but I just saw them laughing. And I said, I want to be able to do that. And throughout the years of my mom really paying attention to me, then she got me into theater, so I was able to express myself. But my dad passing away at 6, and I didn't have my voice anymore. But theater was a key. Martial arts was a key. Cartoons, comic books, all of that stuff during that time were keys so that I could have my voice.
And they all fit into your teachings now, which is so beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
You said that in that moment with Keith, or during that exercise with Keith, when you had the all the world's a stage moment, the books were downloaded to you. Let's talk first about the first book, Transformative New Thoughts. Tell us how that process started for you, how it came to be. Tell us a little bit about writing that book. Just give us a peek into your life during that period.
Oh man, it was insane. It was when I was surrounded by lots of spiritual teachers. I had a friend who, in Milwaukee, we call him a professional exorcist. Business always goes up for him at Halloween just because he's on radio shows and people talk about stuff like that. He was one of my people that I hung around with, and he was showing me things. How to do different types of energy work and stuff like that. Had a fun time. Meeting Keith and Transformative New Thoughts, and what that was just meeting all of these different teachers and seeing how with some of them, they would have conflicts with different teachings. Now, I would hang with them and I would see, wait a minute, I see the common road on how they work. I don't have a conflict with this stuff. So the idea and the art of Transformative New Thoughts was, well, I want to make this stuff simple. I want to make this so everybody can get it. And I want to make this so that there is no conflict, because I saw that if someone had to prove something wrong for something else to be right, there's a flaw. And that's what I was experiencing with all of these different teachers. And that was, again, where the statement of lose yourself to the great teachings, don't get wrapped up in the teacher, was coming to me to help me find and raise my own voice with that. Transformative New Thoughts was the play on words that I was using in the spiritual language, like ego. Depending on who you're listening to, ego is something that needs to be suppressed and needs to be gone away. Well, that's really retarded, because your ego, for me, is really saying that this is how you define things that you like. Your ego is just another word for your personality. So ego in Transformative New Thoughts just means this: energy generating outcome. That's what the ego is. You check your ego and your intention when you start something. If you're feeling good, keep going with that. If you feel bad, shift gears and stop. Take care of yourself. Another word, as I'm sharing this stuff with you tonight, is idea. You know when people have these really phenomenal ideas and they are balls-ass excited, and they expect you to be balls-ass excited as they are, but you're not? And that's okay. You're not supposed to be, because it's their idea. It's not yours. But when they're just like that happy and that idea is flowing through them, what is that? Well, the idea is your internal description of expanding alignment. This is what makes you happy. This is your driving force when you discovering your life's purpose. Your life's purpose to express joy. Your life's purpose to be who you want to be. Your life purpose to express love. Love has transformed for me too, because now I don't hear love the way other people do. Love for me means living our vibrant expression. This is the technology and tools of transformative new thoughts. You take these words, and I said to myself, what's the real meaning of these words? Just tell me what these words mean. And then these acronyms started to flow. It really gave me tools to make everything a level playing field so I could get to the real truth. I could get there with no conflict. And it was the common road that would link every teaching or everything that's out there, because again, it's my manual. Let me just say that. I'm just showing people my manual, because as I explained it and as you're giving me the opportunity to share right now, people would go, Jeff, that's a really good idea. You should write that down. Jeff, that's a really good idea. You should write that down. Okay, 3 times. Okay, I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna write it down. Okay. And I'm telling you, man, within weeks of the download, maybe less than 2, I met my friend and publisher who knew the ins and outs of the book field. And she's like, oh, you want to write some books? I can help you with that. And dude, she literally sat across from me and typed stuff as it came through me until I got a better handle on it on my own. And she said, okay, here, take it over, because Transformative New Thoughts was the easiest book to get out. But Hot Chocolate Happiness was happening around Transformative New Thoughts. Oh my God. Man, when I say that I'm showing you my manual on how I make it easy to take it easy, that's what was going on. Transformative New Thoughts was making the spiritual playing field very level. And it takes the conflict out. And again, with my influences of Tony Robbins, Abraham Hicks, anyone that I could get my hands on that was really feeding me at that time, those were the keys. Those were the avenues of the embodiment of my first book. That's Transformative New Thoughts. Transformative New Thoughts is the thought that you think that gives you relief. From that point, your life changes forevermore.
So what's the timeline between those 2 books that you've referenced so far? Are they going on concurrently, or is one finished and the other starting? Tell me a little bit about the timeline between 2.
Transformative New Thoughts was first published in 2009. And Hot Chocolate Happiness, that was done too. But I realize now that with all of the revisions and things that was going on with it, is that I actually was living Hot Chocolate Happiness. And so as I would go back and revisit it, because every time I would submit it to her, my publisher was like, it's missing something. Really? Come on. This is like, I'm ready to go with this. She's like, no, it's not ready yet. It's missing something. And I'm just like, come on. I'm like, this stuff is ready to fly. Can we get this? And so she was patient enough with me. And I calmed down enough to listen and to actually go back and to look at my work and to break it down as best as I could with my eyes, word for word, energetic feel, and see how it felt. And as I got deeper within my own work, I was like, oh, wait, I know this now. Oh, wait, I know this now. Oh, wait, I know this now. And even going back to my original work too, I could go back and read some of my material and go, how did this happen? How did I know? It's like I wrote sentences, things were coming out of me, Jim, that I didn't know that I would need at some point in my life. But the point is, how did I know to write this sentence to save my life at this point in time? You know? And so again, it was just amazing. So Hot Chocolate Happiness, that was published 2015. You know, so all of that time of working with it and playing with it, I realized that, oh my God, I had to live hot chocolate happiness first. And then it became, and then here it is. Because once I gave it to her and it had some other eyes that, again, there's a slew of people that helped me out with that book, and, test subjects, if you will, because I'm like, go ahead, try that, see how that feels. And they would come back at me. Again, just phenomenal for my experience. And hot chocolate happiness, it's just, again, 2015. And it's that trail. But I had both of them in 2009. 2009, Transformative New Thoughts was published, but I had both of them then.
So on the cover of Hot Chocolate Happiness, it says, "Happy because I said so." And I've said that many times. Tell us a little bit about how we can learn to say so on those days, weeks, and months when we just are having a hard time seeing the happiness. How can we do that to ourselves?
Oh, dude, that was a growing up phrase that stuck with my ass like you would not believe. Because again, Jeoffrey is a free spirit. And so there's a lot of things that people just tried to curtail and, tried to rein me back because I was having so much fun. And I would just, I would question people. Jeoffrey, turn that light off. Why? Because I said so. Oh, I heard that a lot during my childhood. That's what the adults would tell me whenever I would question or question anything that they were told me, tell me what to do. They'd say, boy, do it because I said so. Mm. Oh, happy because I said so. Oh, shit. For real. That got ingrained with me pretty quickly. But this also tells you how powerful you truly are. Because when I say that your world is going to be defined by 4 words, if you say so, mm-hmm. I'm not here to combat your power, to say that I'm right and you're wrong. No, I'm going to show you how powerful you truly are. Because no matter what I say, if you believe something different, that's how it's going to be for you. I'm not here to combat that. You say you can't be happy, if you say so. You say you can't be successful, if you say so. I'm telling you how powerful you truly are in that moment. And happy because I said so, that was me saying, yeah, I'm happy because I said so. I don't need to justify it. I don't need to prove it. I don't need to have somebody else give it to me. No, this is all coming from within. Because there was a shit ton of life that was happening. And I had 2 choices. I could either feel good about it or I could either feel bad about it. When I was my victim in my life, somebody came into my field. So as I was, get really lightly, deeply intimate with you here. I'm in my victimization and I can't see the light for any way, shape, or form. I can't. That was my whole visor in going about life. Now, as I'm looking through my I can't glasses, somebody stepped into my experience and they were there I can. So I can't. Oh, I can. Because this person's life, in direct contrast with mine, they had a hell of a lot more things going on that they could be upset about, spirits crushed. They had a hell of a lot more going on than I did. And they were still in their I can't, in their optimism, in their place of possibility that made their lives so delicious and sweet. And in my I can't, they came to me with their I can, and that started to scratch the record, dude. I couldn't play that particular I can't song anymore. And the I can song started. Mm. That internal feeling of, because I said so. Because I said so. Every time that I was a victim, I found somebody that victimized me because I couldn't do it and somebody's going to get me. And yeah, speaking of which, if somebody's going to get me, here's another simple tool that's going to change your whole life too. When I was a victim, that's where I was living from. The world is out to get me. Total victimization.
So you used the word victim there, and I want to talk about that specifically because I know in your teachings you talk about how we choose to be victims and how victims fight victims. Can you share with us a little bit about your approach and how you teach people away from that?
Yeah, victims fight victims. When I was angry, when I was so pissed off at life, I got into a lot of conflicts with people, mental, physical, emotional. I was always fighting. But dig this, man. The minute I got into martial arts and I knew how to throw a punch, I knew how to throw a kick efficiently, I knew how to think about how to get that done, I never got into another physical fight. Never did. Because I knew how to fight now. And it's a funny thing when you know how to fight, you can kind of lose your flavor for it if you really are looking for something more. Not that fighting's a bad thing. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from, because I was a victim and I was fighting people all the time. And victims fight victims. They really do. Empowered people don't engage in this type of behavior. Now, when you have people that are feeling like a victim like I did, you're going to find somebody that will, again, make you a victim if that's what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what they are dressed like. If you are thinking like a victim, you will attract something to victimize you. And I did. I had lots of momentum in that victim mentality, but I had to, pull the cords, to pop the parachutes, to slow my momentum down, and to have more of those engaging thoughts. And again, when I share that with people, I playfully say, yep, okay, everybody, it's time to kill the victim. And they go, what? Because people have become accustomed to identifying themselves by the pain that they've experienced from life. Whereas Jeoffrey did something different. I was feeling pain so much and I was almost ready to punch my own ticket, and I decided that it hurt too much to be that person. And so I then decided to define who I wanted to be by the joy that I experienced from life. When I was in that spot and I couldn't figure out what was going on, it was dark. And we all have an episode of dark and what that might mean to us. But for me, it was just dark. It was scary. It was rough. But when I said, I can't be this person anymore, then I had to go back to my childhood, lo and behold, to find my experiences of joy of how I wanted to define myself as. And now people kind of call me intense. I don't know why, but they do. And I think that intensity is that, I really give a fuck about how I feel. You want to be happy because you said so? You must do something if you're not feeling happy. And all we're ever going to talk about in different formats is how we use our mind to change our emotional focus, mental focus. That's what I did. I gave a fuck about my feeling good, and I wasn't going to change it for anybody else because I wanted to feel good. And I made a decision to live my life and learn my lessons from the joy that I experienced. So it's really cool to share that with people like yourself and to really have this format to open up our hearts, to open up our minds, because, my God, man, there's more than one way to get to the party. We can all get there together.
Right on, brother. Right on. Speaking about finding happiness, when you look in the world today and you read the headlines, it can be a challenge to find things to be happy about. As I said in the intro, you're an important voice of love in a changing world. What would you say to someone who lives in the fear that we will never find a way to move beyond our differences in race, religion, culture, nationality? How would you address that?
Well, it can be pretty simple. Don't look outside of yourself for love, acceptance, or approval. People, as human beings, we are so wonderful. We make things up and we believe it. It's really phenomenal. Human beings are the one species that think they need a manual on how to be a good human being. We don't have manuals to give to dogs so they know how to be dogs. We don't have manuals to give to cats so they know how to be cats. We don't have MP3s to give to chickens so they know how to do chicken shit. No other creature on this planet except human beings have all of these different manuals to say that this is what you need to do to be a good human being. And okay, we're getting into some dark territory here, but we're really going to blow it out of the fucking water. So if we as human beings don't need any manuals to be a good human being, because being a good human being is our natural state. All of this stuff that's been flaring up has been coming from a lack consciousness, plain and simple. I don't have something, so I need to take it from you. I'm fearful of you, so I need to make you feel small so that I can feel big. Lackful consciousness, period. I don't care what color your skin is. Okay? So now, if we as human beings don't need a manual on how to be a good human being, because again, these manuals were not here. I have 2 manuals right now. They were not here for a good part of my life. Well, how did these manuals come down? I told you. I somehow quieted my mind, got connected to source, and boom, the information came to me. Just like everybody else, if you will get quiet, you will understand your connection to source, and you will know your next natural loving step. You don't need to give your money to a church, to any ideology. You will be a naturally good person because you choose to, because that's your natural state. And here's the thing about fear. Fear only exists to protect your physical being. If you're not going to get hit by a car, if you don't have someone that's really threatening your physical existence, that's the only reason for fear. Everything else is just a mental game we play with ourselves.
So when someone is trying to make you or anybody in the ubiquitous you a victim, and they're trying to impose their power to elicit a response of fear, or when they try to use a really big word right now, label people for any of the things they might be labeled for, they maintain the power by doing exactly what you just said. Correct?
Yeah, they maintained the attempt. If you go ahead and co-sign with that too. You have
choice, right?
Yeah. You gotta agree with them. If some point that you're still telling yourself a part of that, I'm lackful and I don't have enough type of story, you're just going to keep continuing that story. And to getting into how that's been perpetrated is that they told you that you were separate from, we're just going to use the term God. And because you were separate from God, that you had to earn your right to be connected to them. Well, if you believe that first lie, that sets you up for all the pain and strife that you're going to experience in your whole life experience. If you believe that you're separate from this idea or energy that's called God. Because if you're going to tell me, Jeoffrey, spiritual teacher, brother from around the corner, that there is this entity that loves you, that needs you to do all of these things for him, but they made everything. Everything has its energy. There is nothing that is created that does not have this energy, and this energy made me, and you're going to try to tell me that I'm less than? Because you see the contradiction in that way that they want you to think. How can I be worthy here and unworthy over here? Doesn't make sense. Not buying it, not falling for it. If you have somebody that's trying to tell you that, here, follow me, mine's the only way, and this is the one true way of doing something, they have nothing for you. Because as long as you think you are missing something, and I say that you are missing something, like in your body you have a hole, H-O-L-E, that you are missing something. As long as you think that you are missing something, they're always going to try to fill it with their rhetoric. But if you understand that you are already whole, W-H-O-L-E, they have nothing for you. There was a time in my experience where people that could read people's energy, read their auras, talk to spirits, say that, I have a message for you. Once I realized that I was whole, that I was incomplete, like how I play with words, I was incomplete, that shit stopped. I get spiritual teachers that could be whatever they are, and they just look at me and go, okay, I got nothing for you. You are, yep. They don't try to do anything for me. They look at me as that gift, as the other teachers did too, that gathering of equals. That energy there. So magnificent. Everyone within the sound of my voice on this call tonight, on this replay, please understand this, that we don't need these manuals. And if these manuals were written through human beings, do you think that consciousness and love stopped talking to me once a book was written? Don't think so.
Not a chance.
Don't think so. Not a chance.
Not a chance. Tell us about what's next for you. In addition to the book, All the World's a Stage, I know you've got some new projects in the hopper here. Tell us what's on the short-term program for Jeoffrey.
Man, wow. Well, I'm going to continue working on All the World's a Stage. I've got some projects that I'm working with my friends Greg Sanderson and Apio Hunter. We want to put something together called Joys Are Us. You'll hear about that more down the road too. I have another Ippy friend that wants to write a massage book with me too that really addresses the spiritual and sacred side about that as well. That's the fresh stuff off the top of my mind. And I got a friend that owns a comic book store that I'm brainstorming doing a class there and just using comic books as the medium, because again, comic books spoke through me and told me how to have a really wonderful life. And so I was going to do that within his class because he has a comic book store. So there are all of these pathways on how you can learn how to have a wonderful life and a great life through comic books. Dude, it's comic books. But I'm telling you, I can have one of the deepest and spiritual workshops you've ever had in your life using the Muppet Show. I'm not bullshitting you. I did it in Infinite Possibilities. I spoke about it, but I actually used that movie in my IP class. And I had people, yeah, it was Kermit. Deep, dude, I can find it. Give me 15 seconds. I can find it. I can find it in all of our movies. I can find it in all the cartoons that I watch. I can give you a deep spiritual teaching from Transformers. Transformers, Jim! Okay? I can do it.
I'll do it one time.
I'll do it one time. Watch. But that's what's on the horizon for me. And with everyone on this phone call, please, why is this on the horizon for me? And why is Jeoffrey doing this? Is Jeoffrey special? Is Jeoffrey that 1%? No, I'm like everybody else. It's 100%. I know the ending of my story. My story is this. And he lived happily ever after.
I love it. So in your All the World's a Stage moment, back in your years when you were searching for that release and finding your voice, you said that Source spoke to you. And you said Source said to you that all the world's a stage and we are all just players and we all have entrances and exits. If Source came to you right now and said, Jeoffrey, it's your exit time, you have one last message you can give the planet and everybody on the planet is going to hear it, what would that message be?
Oh man. There you go.
Enough said. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Jeoffrey Hot Chocolate Hutcherson. I'm going to unmute everybody so we can all give him a suitable and audible round of applause.
Thank you.
Jeoffrey.
Thank you.
Jeoffrey, I use excerpts from the Muppet movie in my IP classics too.
Yes! See?
Anybody can do it. So we have time for a few questions or just comments about the experience. Anybody by a wave of the hand have anything they want to ask or say to Jeoffrey? Anybody get the ball rolling.
Well, I'll roll a ball. What the heck? Because I just feel a sheer delight in listening to Jeoffrey talk. And I am I love you, Jeoffrey. That's really all I can say.
Thank you. It is totally reciprocated.
Not more needs to be said. Anybody else?
Ron, your dog wants to say something.
Yeah.
My dog is in the other room. I do want to say something because I've known Jeoffrey for about 3 years, and my wife had met him, and she says, "You got to meet this guy." I says, "Is he just as crazy and energetic as you?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And I went right up to him and I gave him a hug. And I knew at that point that we were going to have this connection that was so powerful that, and we talked about it a while back, of that day that we made that connection, and he always still just told me, just be yourself. Be true to yourself.
And I am grateful that Jeoffrey has connected you and I, Ron. I'm very grateful to know you as well. All right, well, I want to wrap it up tonight with just a couple of quick announcements to go forward. As many of you know, we have a few programs going on throughout the month. A bunch of you joined us at the beginning of the month for Possibilities and Manifestations, which was a new program that I launched for Infinite Possibilities Day. And I think we got such good response that we want to do it again. We haven't picked an exact date yet, but if you stay tuned, probably at the end of September or the beginning of October, we're going to pick a date for another live story share, which we'll put out there, and I'll be looking for some participants for that. Earlier this month, our friend Mark Offenbacher and I launched a program called Discovering Acceptance and Finding Peace. And we're reviewing the feedback from that program and refining the content. And we will begin in about 4 or 5 weeks hosting ongoing once-a-month workshops about working through and accepting things in your life. It can revolve around grief from a loss in your life, divorce, releasing something from your former self. We just got an amazing experience with a group of 12 people in our workshop. I've also had the great privilege for the last 6 months of working with Appio Hunter, one of our fellow trainers, and he recently converted his principles, or his rather Samuel channeling sessions, into a monthly Principles of Joy workshop. And the next workshop will be on September 21st for that. So you can find out about that through our Monday email, as well as the posts on Facebook. And then last, but certainly not least, I'm super excited to continue with this program. And I'm happy to tell all of you who have joined us tonight about episode 4 of Stories from the Path. For episode 4 of Stories from the Path, I'm going to have the really amazing privilege of interviewing who I think is the #1 community support person in the entire IPPY community, and that is the girl sitting on the screen right now, Miss Wendy Doherty. So Wendy will be joining us on September 26th at 7 p.m. Central Time. Her stories of survival are an inspiration to so many, and I can't wait to invite you into this conversation with Wendy. To sit with Wendy and talk one-on-one is akin to sitting in your own living room with your best friend. So that's it for tonight, folks. Thanks so much for joining us for episode 3 of Stories from the Path. One last time, boundless gratitude to you, Mr. Hot Chocolate Jeoffrey, and I will see you all next time on the path. I'm going to unmute everybody, and you can say goodbyes if you want to.
Bye, everybody.